Stuck in Iceland. Alright guys, so I wanted to make this video in order to share a couple tips that I learned and I did not see on the internet before I went to Iceland. So I visited Iceland for 2 weeks, rented a car, and ended up like this. So I hope you guys don't end up this way, and we'll talk about how to prevent that. But I first wanted to talk about a couple tips that might make your Iceland vacation a little bit less painful. Number one is credit card pins. So here in America, we use our credit cards, but it is very rare that you go somewhere, you use your credit card, and somebody asks you for a PIN number. Now, for debit cards, yes, you do have a PIN number that you need to put in, but for credit cards, you typically just swipe and then sign, and that's it. Well, guess what? In Europe, it's quite a different system with the credit cards, and so when we were trying to put in gas into our car at the pumps normally want you to swipe your credit card and then put in a PIN number. And if you don't know your PIN number, then you're kind of stuck. You have to get a card, a prepaid card for gasoline or fuel. And so here is the tip. Get your PIN number for your credit card before you travel. And this way you will be able to use your credit card freely without restrictions. All right, next tip, guys, is gasoline and fuel. Now, if you rent a car, typically the car is going to have a set of keys, and on the set of keys, you'll find this little keychain almost with the gasoline sign. Here's one with a Shell, but it could be a couple of different logos on there. And the trick here is to save money on gasoline or fuel. You put this little tag, this little keychain thing up against a sensor either at the pump or at the register, and it will give you a certain percent discount off your fuel. And so that was really cool. Most people don't know that, but if you do that, it saves you some money. Now, also keep in mind that sometimes some of these gas companies are friends. And so what I mean is if you can use, you will be allowed to use your Shell token to swipe and get a discount at the Shell and let's say at the Orkin or between the N1 and the Olis. And so some of these go together so that if you have a Shell, you can also use it at Orkin. So make sure you find this out from your rental company and save you some money. All right. The next tip I want to give you guys is guest houses, checking in, that kind of stuff. The reason is because most of the time our first guest house, as you can see here, Guest House Lena, a really awesome guest house, was owned by a person that lives there, and they rent out a floor or a couple of rooms for people to stay. So what ends up happening is as you're traveling around Iceland, at first, since this was our first guest house, we thought, man, the next guest house where we're staying, we need to be on time for checking in because I'm not sure what's going to happen if we check in after the said time on our booking agreement, which I don't know was 9 p.m. And so between two spots, we really rushed through a lot of scenery that I wanted to stop and enjoy because given the time, the distance between locations, if we did stop, we would not make it to check in by the due time. And so as it turns out, we rushed to get to the next guest house in order to be polite and not go past our 9 p.m. deadline. And once we got there, it turns out you could just ring a bell and they will call somebody to come let you in. So it was not a big deal. So make sure that if you're staying in guest houses, you either ahead of time call them or let them know you're going to be late, or just assess if punctuality is a big deal for the guest house where you will be staying. A lot of other times, guest houses, the property manager was not on the property, and so when you rang the bell, it triggered some kind of electronic doorbell that rang to somebody's phone in a different location, and then they had to come over and let you in. One of the times that mechanism was not working at one of the guest houses, and we normally don't travel with our cell phones active, so we scrounged around to different gas stations trying to find somebody to let us use their cell phone to call the number listed at the guest house door in case the doorbell mechanism wasn't working. So take home message here is check your guest house to see if you are allowed to be checking in past their set hours of check-in. In number 2, bring a cell phone that's active, or unlock your cell phone number and use a local SIM card that will let you do phone calls in Iceland. So this way, there's a lot of phone calls that we could have made if we had done that ahead of time. All right, so the other thing is some hotels, if you're staying in a nice big hotel, that checking in doesn't matter. You can check in midnight, 1 a.m. It's a big hotel. But most of the time, guys, you're going to be staying at guest houses where you may think, man, I need to be there at the times that are set because these are locally owned, people are on the property, and you just want to be polite. So there you go. The next thing I want to talk to you guys is driving off the main roads. So there is a ring road that goes all the way around Iceland that's really well maintained. It has asphalt. It's a beautiful, beautiful, safe road. Every now and then, as you've seen in other videos, it narrows down so that you have to either share with the one-way lane and then stop if somebody's coming using it the other way. That's all right. But one of the big things to realize here is that if you're going off the main roads, and you may go off the main roads because some of the waterfalls you may be looking for are off the main road. And in our case, we traveled around Iceland from Reykjavik around, going east and then north all the way around. But once we were at the top, we decided to cross through Iceland all the way through down the middle. And that you're using a lot of what they call their F roads. F roads, who knows why that is, but F roads are typically like this, where it's a lot of dirt, a lot of rocks. You can still make out that there's a path there, but however, they're not paved, and you will have a lot of jitteriness. So just take a look at this video. From the outside, it looks more or less okay. I'm hanging my arm out the window with my GoPro. Here's above. But then when you go look at how my hands are shaking on the steering wheel, you realize there is a lot of shake and bake going on here. So just be prepared for the F roads. And if you are on the F roads, inevitably you may encounter one of these river crossings. So here's something funny, guys. So we were at one of these river crossings with our Dacia car that you've seen here on the video already. It's not a regular car, it's an SUV type car. We got to the river crossing, not this one specifically, but this same white SUV car was in front of us on one of the river crossings, and we followed that car. And as we were following the car through the river crossing, it seemed to me that off to the left was a little bit more shallow. So I veered off to the left of the direct path that would be crossing from point A to point B. I veered off just a little bit because it looked more shallow. But lo and behold, that's very deceiving because the ground there was very soft. And so even though it was shallow, the weight of the vehicle just sunk in like quicksand, and we were stuck. So later on, once I figured all that out, I got unstuck from Iceland. We came to another river crossing, which is the one you see here, and this white Suzuki car was in front of us, and they were really hesitating crossing this river right here until I told the guy my secret. And after I told him the secret, I said, look, let me go first. I have nothing to lose. I already got stuck. And I did go through. And then they decided to take the challenge. But here is our vehicle, the Dacia, when I got stuck. And you'll be able to see here, here's the guy on the left of our vehicle, actually marking the left side of the road. And it's even if it looks deep, guys, go through the river because the secret is the people that are maintaining these roads, and there are people maintaining the roads, they will actually close off the river crossings that are unsafe. They will close them, guys. So just keep that in mind. Even though it looks like you're in the middle of nowhere, there are guides out there, patrol people that are monitoring the depth of these river crossings, and they will lock them down if they are not safe. So the rule of thumb is follow the direct path between where the road seems to end and where the road seems to start on the other side. Just go direct. Don't veer off on the left or the right, even if it looks shallow, because it's a deceiving soft ground. These guys, these patrol guys, have taken the time to really drive through that middle part of the road a lot of times to compact it, and this is what makes it safe. And so here they are pulling our car out, stuck from Iceland. We are now unstuck from Iceland and can be on our way. So now let me show you guys this white Suzuki. After we crossed, before we crossed, I told these guys, look, let me go through, because the guide, the patrol guy that pulled us out over there, said, look, just go direct. Don't veer off the path. If it's unsafe, we will shut it down. And so I drove through, was a little nervous, but having that thought, the piece of information in mind helped me. And after these guys saw me go through, here's what they did. And there you are, guys. Now here's a different river crossing. My wife has the GoPro out the window, and you can see it can be pretty scary. These things are deep. You have a rental car. You don't want to ruin it, get fined, get damaged, get towed, waste time. So the key information is definitely stay on the road. Even if it looks pretty deep, it would have been closed if it was unsafe. Now, if you're on a regular car, you're taking a big risk, because those are meant for more SUV type things. We did see a couple of regular cars take that challenge. They did okay, but I don't know if I would have risked that. So that's why we rented an SUV, knowing we were going to cross down the middle of Iceland into those F roads. One other tip I want to give you guys: if you are renting a car, and this is because maybe I've never rented a car in Europe, but if you're renting a European car, it may have a different way of changing the gears. And this is what I'm talking about. Take a listen. All right, guys. So if you ever find yourself in Iceland or in any other country with a French car, this one is called the Dacia. So here we go. So in order to put it in reverse, and you can see here the handle, the R is right there, but it's disconnected. And it would make sense here. Now I'm going to press the clutch and the brake. And so you can go into first gear, second gear, third gear, etc. But once you try to put it over, it doesn't let you go beyond to reverse. And that's a safety feature, but it was not very intuitive how to make it go this way and up. So now, still with the clutch depressed, what you do is pull this little plastic piece up, and now it lets you go into reverse. Voila! Have a good day. And that is it, guys. So just to recap, if you are traveling to Iceland and you don't want to get stuck, make sure that you follow the path. Stay on it no matter what it looks like around. Just go direct from one side of the river to the other. Number 2, credit card pins. Make sure you get your credit card pin before you go to Iceland. Number 3, when you're fueling the rental cars, make sure to take advantage of that token. Stop by the gas stations, the fueling stations that have your brand, so you can get a discount. The guest houses, make sure that you clarify if you have an unlocked number and you're using a local SIM card, that you call them and make sure what is the latest time. And if you do arrive past the time that it says on your contract, what can you do after that time? And also, yeah, just have a good time putting your car in reverse. If you already knew that, hey, more power to you. That was a new one to me. All right, guys, safe travels. See you next time. Oh, and don't forget to check out my Epic Iceland video and my other epic videos on my channel. All right, guys. Bye.